We have breaking news. Detroit has filed for bankruptcy. It is now the largest city in U.S. history to file for Chapter 9 bankruptcy. We will hear from Governor Rick Snyder live in just a few minutes.
But first, 7 Action News reporter Jim Kurtzner has been on this since day one and joins us live. What is the reaction there, Jim?
They're surprised that it happened this fast, but not surprised that it happened at all, because everybody here expected this day was coming. But 4 months into this, bankruptcy attorney turned emergency manager Kevin Orr is now taking the city of Detroit into a Chapter 9 municipal bankruptcy, the largest in U.S. history. He said in his filing there's no reasonable alternative. He had to get authorization from Governor Rick Snyder in writing. We've since learned that he made that request 2 days ago. The governor, in his written response, says that this cannot be successfully addressed, the city's financial crisis, without this Chapter 9 filing. The word spreading through City Hall just within the last hour. Here's some reaction.
We've known for a while the city of Detroit is experiencing financial hardships. With that being said, bankruptcy was always something that the emergency manager said was an option, and that he wasn't afraid to use that hammer, if you will. So it doesn't surprise me.
Disappointed that we had to make the decision this soon, but knowing that's one of the end results of having an emergency manager here, that the city could go into bankruptcy. And if I stress anything to the public, it would be that we will still have the normal day-to-day operation of the city of Detroit. Nothing will stop. The city would not just shut down. We will still be here.
Things have been building to this moment. The deficit, $18 billion. Creditors offered only 10 cents on the dollar. 700,000 Detroit City residents wondering about their future. 30,000 Detroit City active and retired workers facing cuts to their pensions, health care, and what else with their city in bankruptcy.
Will this affect our working conditions? Will this affect pay, benefits? And will this affect pensions? Based on what we know, anything is possible.
We know at the end things will get better. Detroit will turn the corner. But how we get through it right now will be the challenge, and how Detroit can stay together and come together.
Now, Governor Rick Snyder, in his letter authorizing this, said many will see this as the low point in Detroit's history, but he also says this is the beginning of the turnaround. Now, this will get national attention because both the governor and the emergency manager have scheduled a news conference for Midtown up at Wayne State University, 10 o'clock tomorrow. Well, they will discuss this. They will take questions. This will be seismic for Detroit's history. Jeff, Joanne?
It certainly is. Already USA Today splashed all over their website and other publications around the country, getting big news, Jim.
Now, Jim, I know that you were there on June 14th when emergency manager Kevin Orr met with those creditors, and you came out and said that they were offered 10 cents on the dollar. A lot of bankruptcy experts said that if we went to bankruptcy, it meant that not everybody got on board with that. So I guess we could safe to assume that he was really kind of forced to do this because not everybody got on board as far as all those creditors.
That's still open to debate, because you have a lot of the employee groups say, we started conversations last week to get serious about concessions and that 10 cents on the dollar figure, and those discussions are incomplete. I talked to some sources here at City Hall on Kevin Orr's side of the fence about that. They say they sued to try to stop this Chapter 9 bankruptcy with a filing up in Lansing that was set to be heard on Monday. So that was sort of their preemptive strike, saying, we're done talking. We have nothing left to discuss since we're suing to stop this Chapter 9. In a sense, Kevin Orr beat him to the finish line. This Chapter 9 federal bankruptcy now trumps that state court action.
You know, obviously you heard, because we heard in the people you interviewed for your piece there, that obviously city residents and city workers, their biggest question, one of them said it perfectly, will it affect pay, working conditions, and benefits in the city? And there is just so much unknown. Nobody can tell them at this point what it's going to mean for those things, can they?
One thing Kevin Orr has done, and that's to make sure the city is still solvent, that they have enough cash on hand to be able to keep the doors open and to pay bills so that there aren't any payless paydays. We had his latest financial report just last week that showed they have only $40 million in cash on hand based on that report as of the end of June 30th, the end of the fiscal year. But they still have cash to draw on. They have a bond reserve with the state. That's another $20 million. So he is keeping the city open, People are getting their paychecks. It's long-term. That's the big question.
The long-term benefits.
And that's one of the things that Kevin Orr did initially. He stopped paying a lot of those payments so he could put some of that money towards the city, and that would in turn be salaries and whatnot for the city workers. But Jim, if we could bring you back up here real quickly, as I understand it, bankruptcy experts have told me that even though we have filed for bankruptcy, we could still avoid bankruptcy, and this could be a play by emergency manager Kevin Orr to get these creditors in line. So have you talked to anybody who believes that they can still go back to the table, whether it be the pensions or whether it be the creditors?
I actually did. I talked with an attorney today who filed this latest lawsuit on behalf of the two pension boards, the police and fire and the general retirement. He said we can still have negotiations. This is not done by any stretch. This is still a next important step. It's my understanding there's about a 3-month review process in the Chapter 9 federal bankruptcy court. So yeah, there is still a lot of wiggle room here.
I've read that too, Jim, that it's like a 30 to 90-day process where a judge can determine if we're eligible to go into Chapter 9 bankruptcy. So we start with the filing today, which is a huge move. As we mentioned, the largest in this country, largest municipality ever in this country to file for bankruptcy. Really shocking. And
by a pretty good stretch, too, because we know Jefferson County, Alabama was about $4 million, and that was the largest one. And this is $18 billion, $11 billion in unsecured debt. So unfortunately, that is an honor that we didn't want to have, but this is unfortunately the largest municipal Chapter 9 bankruptcy at $18 billion.
And as the governor says, as we heard, he says it's the only viable option he believes. Jim, we'll check back in with you. I believe we've got with us